With that, I believe, is our program speaker ready for us tonight? Yes. Our program speaker has got a very fascinating topic to talk with us about. Dan is a native of Mascoutah in New Dayton, Illinois. He's grown up right here in southern Illinois, went to school in this area. He's had a number of life experiences in teaching, working around the area. He's worked as curator and tour director under the St. Louis Arch, dealing with people down there, taking 200,000 school children through a year and some of the events that are there. He got involved in historical interpretation. He's going to be playing the part of a Jesuit priest from the 1700s that ministered to the Illinois tribe of Indians here in southwestern Illinois. The Illinois tribe, and he will go into much more detail on this, but he's going to be basically talking about the histories of a number of these tribes. These were the old Kaskaskia and Cahokia Indians that lived within this region and the Jesuit ministers that ministered to them. I believe he's in costume, and I hope when I ask him to come forth, he can step on out. I believe he's ready and in the room. So Dan, if you're ready, please feel free to join us. Dan, thank you and welcome to the Bond County Historical Society dinner meeting.
Pajo Nikawaki. Isingi Makatakira Pere Jacques Nitarinwe. Kitarinwengu? Kitarinwengu? Mushi. Kushi Wintan. Kushi Wintan. Ni. Pun. Di. Kan? Nipuntikan. Mush. Nimbu. Nandemani. Nawahu. Parlez-vous français? Ah oui. Parlez-vous anglais? You speak English? I will speak English too. Would you like to know what I have said? I will tell you. When you meet a new group of people, it is polite to say hello. And so I said to you, Pajo Nikawaki. Pajo is hello. Nikawaki is friends. I hope I am not being too forward in saying friends. Waki makes it more than one friend. Nikawaki. If I said Nika, it would be one friend. One. Nikawaki, more than one. It's important you remember that, alright? Well, then you need to let people know who you are. And so, I introduced myself. I said to you, Isingi Makatakira Pere Gravier. Isingi means they call me, or my name is. Pere is father in French. Gravier is my French surname. So I said to you, my name is Makatakira, I forgot. I am the black robe, because that is what they call us, black robes. I am a Jesuit missionary priest, so you know I can talk for a very long time. Well, I looked around at you, told you who I was, but I'm not so sure you're understanding what I'm saying. And so I said to you, Nitarinwe. I still don't see any light in your eyes. Then I asked this one, because he's closest. Kitarinwengu. He thinks I'm going to bite him or something. This one too. I was asking you a question. Of course you knew that, right? Nitarinwe means what language I am saying. I am speaking the Illinois Indian language. Kitarinwengu. That means, do you speak the Illinois Indian language? I did not get the impression too many of you are well versed in a language. So I had to think a minute. What am I going to talk about next? You don't know the language. So I said this to you. Kushi Wintando. What in the world was I trying to get you to do? You were right in the middle. You get that back, don't you? Kushi went tanto, kushi went tanto, kushi went tanto. Ni pun di tan. Anybody know what I was trying to get you to do? Kushi went tanto means try to pronounce this word. And then I gave it to you a little bit at a time. Ni pun di tan. Then put it all together. Nipundekan. Don't feel bad. You didn't know the language. I didn't expect you to jump up and give a speech right away, you know? But Nipundekan means where you learn. I often talk to little ones. Not wise ones like some of you with snow on the roof. I do that sometimes too, but little ones, they look at me even funnier. What's this man talking about? Why doesn't he talk English? They say if they speak English. But sometimes they kind of venture forth and they kind of say, you hear somebody in the back saying, and then you can encourage others to do it. But you know, when you don't speak the language of your speaker, it is eramatui, it is difficult if you don't know the language. There'll be more about that in a minute. I didn't have anything else to say. You weren't catching on with my beginning of a lesson, so it's time to change strategies. So I said to you, Nimbu, Nanemane. When you are given a formal speech in a formal setting, the speaker has to let everyone know when he is finished speaking. In the customs of the people around here, nobody else is going to talk until that one's done. They're very good about that, very respectful. And so I tell you, I'm done, somebody else can talk, but I'm a Jesuit, I keep talking. After that, I said, Nawa. That means thank you. Then I had a thought. I said, oh, they don't speak Lenawek. Maybe they speak French. So I said, parlez-vous français? And many of you do, apparently, speak French. But I still saw no light in the eyes of many. So I said, parlez-vous anglais? Do you speak English? Oh, yes, looks like you speak English. I hope all of you aren't English, though. You know, we French, we don't get along with the English. Maybe for one evening we can do it, if that's the case. And anyway, I like to introduce myself in this language for a number of reasons. Number one, you might all be a Lenawik, and I don't know you. You're from far away, but you're not dressed like a Lenawik, so I didn't really think so. When I came to work among the Lenawik people, it was about 1687. There had been others who come before. I'll tell you a little about them in a moment. But when I came, we needed to know their language. We needed to. Other missionaries, they work with people and they try to use Latin, they try to use French. Those people aren't so good at learning a new language, these people some of us call savages. But we, Jesuits, we try to learn theirs. In the 1690s, I went around asking everybody, every word they would tell me. I say, how do you say that? I write it down. How do you say that? Ooh, this thing. How about that? What did you do last night? Don't do that anymore. How do you say that? What are you doing? Oh, no, you can't do that anymore. Come see me in confession after you tell me what that is, how you say it, you know. I asked everybody every question I could think of. After a while, you know, behind my back, I heard them calling me a name. They didn't think I heard them. Maybe some of them didn't care if I heard it. They called me Kushime Gusewa. Sounds kind of nice, don't you think? Kushime Gusewa. If you're a Jesuit, like me, you take it as compliment. That isn't how it was meant. It means the questioning all the time one. How are you going to learn if you don't ask questions? But you know, when you're asking people some questions that are personal, they don't take it too well. I put them all down. I compiled a dictionary of this language, almost 600 pages. So all of those Jesuit missionaries and other Frenchmen after me would know how to properly say the parts of the Mass. Would know when they're telling you in confession that they killed somebody, you're knowing what they're telling you, or whatever they did. How can you work with a people if you don't know their language? I don't understand these other missionaries, like the Seminary of Foreign Missions. They try to speak French all the time. Well, I could go on for a long time about that. I'm sure you don't want to hear all about Jesuit politics. Anyway, Right here, I have somewhat of a map showing where the Lenawek people lived. I think I maybe need to change this map to a little bit earlier date. It says before or around 1650. Should probably be 10 years earlier. This map, all of the gray area, was originally the land of the Lenawake. Lenawake. You remember I told you Wake was important? The first Europeans to hear about this group of people was the British. You know, the British, they didn't remember what they heard exactly right. Maybe it's because they're British. Or maybe it's because, you know, first time you're going to remember all these words I tell you. You are, I'm sure. You're sitting right here in front. Not going to miss a thing. Maybe British didn't remember exactly right. When they were asked, who's this new group you heard about? The Lenawake is what they heard. But when we French heard it from them, they tried to remember. Lenawek. That's what they remembered, the Lenawek. And so, that's what we wrote down. I don't know if it's because they were British and messed it up, or that's all they remember. A lot of times, names get changed. Well, a Lenawake would mean more than one Eleni. There, Marquette wrote down, Lenawake, Illinois means the real ones, or the men. As I checked more into this language, it kind of means more the original ones. The ones who came first. He wrote down in his journal that it was like, we are the men, everybody else is much lower than us. I did not get that impression, but difference of interpretation. At any rate, British heard about these Lenawakis, called them Lenawek. We heard about them. And when we heard, after a while, we get missions up here and over here. And then we're meeting some of them. They're coming to trade with us. We haven't been to their country yet. We find out they would like us to come to their country. We find out some other things too. I'm sure you all know about the man named Christopher Columbus. I'm sure this wise group knows what Columbus was really looking for. What was Columbus really looking for? You're going to get it all night. What was he looking for? Now, what's Chris looking for? New country. New country. You think he's right? Oh, this one over here, she's disagreeing. What do you think Chris was looking for?
Well, he was looking for the East Indies.
The East Indies. Why did he want to find the East Indies? Didn't they know where they were?
Well, he thought by going west, he could go around the globe the other way.
Yes. You see, Europeans had been trading and bringing things from the Indies, spices. Somebody's going to make a lot of money if they can get there faster. So, here's Christopher Columbus. Hello, King. How you doing? I'm in your country. Would you give me some money? I'm going to get some ships. I'm going to find a faster way to get over to these Indies, bring you back spices, make you a lot of money. You know what the kings usually said and the queens? Sure. No, that isn't what they said. Most of them first said, all of our money's tied up in what we're doing. Usually it was war. We'll be back. You must be the king of Spain. We'll be back. Well, he went walking around, knock, knock, knock. Hello, king. How you doing? Here's your beautiful queen. You going to give me some money? I'm going to go west to go east. I'm going to bring you lots of money back. And they all said no. You know, a lot of those little school kids, they think Columbus was trying to prove that the world was round. Most of the educated people at that time, they believed that already. The people who didn't have the advantage of going to schools, like fine Jesuit schools, you know, later on, they didn't believe that and understand that. Well, finally, Chris goes back to Spain. Hey, King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella, how you doing? I'm back. He asked them again. They said, well, we just finished up a war. We got some money. Here, take it. Go get your ships, get your men. They thought they'd never see him again, I think. You know? And maybe good riddance. They thought Chris didn't have everything up here, you know? So Chris goes off, gets some men, gets some ships, goes off sailing. He's trying to sail west to get a faster way to get to the east for trading for spices. This is for business. Well, he's out there. Chris is a very optimistic man of vision, you know. He's out there. He's going to bring money back for King and Queen of Spain. And he's sailing and he's sailing. Oh, it's going to be a beautiful time. We're going to make lots of money. But you know, those men who are with him, they're not educated. They still think you're going to go so far and off you go. Or maybe there's sea monsters out there and they're going to get you. You're not going to come back. He's optimistic. He doesn't believe all of that nonsense. what his men do, and he hears mumbling, "We're gonna get Christopher Columbus and kill us." And he hears mumbling below decks. And maybe one night late, he hears people talking about he's not going to live through the next day. So he's getting a little nervous, maybe. Next morning, envision in your minds men coming towards him, maybe with hands behind their backs and their knife isn't in their sheath. And they're getting closer and closer to Mr. Columbus. I think maybe now he's getting a little bit nervous, a lot. And about that time, man way up high in the crow's nest yells, "Land ho!" Christopher Columbus goes, after Mr. Chris gets the men, jumps in a small boat, goes out onto the island he bumped into by mistake. He's optimistic. He thinks he got to India. He sees these people running around dressed in skins, look like they've been out in the sun all the time, got strange languages. Being the optimist he is, he says, "Indios!" He thinks he's in India. He calls them Indians. Those were the Tainos and the Arawaks. But forever now, they'll be known as Indians. And all the people, on that continent near those islands, same fate befell them. Some people think there were 300 to 500 different nations on that continent we're on now then. We'll never know for sure. But Christopher Columbus was going west to try to get the faster route to the east. Now, let us move ahead from 1492 to 1673. Here comes Marquette and Joliet. We French have heard from some of these Lenawakis and others, there's a great river in the middle of this continent. Only we don't really know its middle. But you know what we're really looking for at that time? The same thing Columbus was looking for. A waterway to go west, to get to the east. Columbus found out, but the people after him found out there was a continent in the way of the original quest. So now you're looking for rivers that'll go west. So, the Lenawakis have been talking with the French. Another thing happens, important, on this map. All the gray area is the Lenawakis. You probably know some of their names. Kaskaskia, Peoria, Tamaroa, Cahokia, Michigamia, Coaracoenton, Moinguna, Wea, Mascoutin, Miami, Piankashaw, Tepuro. Even more of them. We don't even have all their names. Many of them are lost. Pretty big area. But the reason it should be about 1640 is there's another group over here. Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca. They made friends with the Dutch. Then they made friends with the British. They traded beaver pelts for many things. One of the things they got were guns. They got lots of beavers in their land. But after a while, they trapped them all. They were greedy. Some of their cousins who spoke the same language as them are the Hurons. They're trading with the French. What they get from the French up the St. Lawrence River, they come and trade with some other tribes. And they get involved with the Ottawa. So the Ottawa and the Huron become middlemen for the French and these other tribes. Doing a pretty good business. These ones, they get jealous. They say, we're out of beavers. These guys are doing good business. Those Hurons, our cousin, let's take them out of the game. We got guns. They don't got many. And so, in 1649, they tried to wipe out their cousins, the Hurons. While they were at it, they tried to take out the Ottawas. Hey, they said, that's not so hard. Lots of beavers around here. These other tribes don't got guns either. Let's take them all. And so the beaver wars came over here. All of these tribes over here, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Sauk, Meskweki, sometimes called Fox, they moved to the other side of this big lake. Ran into the Winnebago and the Menominee. Refugees all over the place. No one village. All different kinds of people living in many villages. And they're running from those people. Most of these people speak Algonquin languages. All except Winnebago. They speak a different kind. And that's not their real name anyway. They call themselves Ho-Chunk, people of the big speech. Along come over the Meskweki. And this big bay those Winnebagos live on, during some times of the year it gets green on it, and sometimes there are fish, so many of them, some of them die. And there's a scent to the water. Not necessarily bad, but the Fox come over here and they call it stinking waters. Not meant necessarily as a bad thing, but they call Winnebagos Winnebago. Stinking water Indians. I'd much rather be called Ho-Chunk, people of the big speech. Anyway, they're all fleeing from these people. And in the languages and stories of these people, the greatest evil they can think of lives in the bottom of these huge lakes. It's a huge snake. Big one. Embodiment of evil. In European mind, we would say maybe it is the devil. They had a different name. And they decided to share that name with this evil that's killing them from the east. The evil that has guns. And so those people, Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, together, all together, those 5 tribes call themselves Haudenosaunee. Haudenosaunee, people of the Longhouse. But these people give them a new name. They call them after that great snake. And in the northern dialects, the way you say that is Iroquois. A name that's going to stick. So the Iroquois come in, they're still trying to kill these off. This is going on now. Lenawakis are down here. They don't got good land for good beaver pelts. Too warm down here. If they keep their mouths shut, they're not going to get involved. But some of them are headstrong. Particularly Peorias. Very traditional. A Peoria chief is up here visiting. While he's visiting, he runs into a Seneca chief. One of those Iroquois. They get into a disagreement. He kills him. I don't know about you, but when I go to someplace new, I try to learn the customs. If you come into this area, you kill a chief when you're not at war with them, it's just like saying, let's do it right now. Let's go to war. And everybody knew that's what was going to happen. Only those Iroquois people, they're not going to want to go up through this part of the war to get down to those Peorians. No. They're going to want to go straight to them. And everybody sees it's going to happen. Their cousins, the Peoria's cousins over here that we now call Miami, they saw it. They knew what was going to happen, and they're right in the middle of what's going to happen. They didn't like that. I sincerely hope none of you are politicians. If you are, I apologize in advance. The Miami are like good politicians. They talked with their cousins, the Peoria. They said, we understand you had a problem with Seneca chief, and now that chief is dead. You're going to be at war. They said, yep, that's the way it happened. And we're ready. We're going to fight him. Oh, then they went and they talked to the enemy. Went and talked to those Iroquois. They said, we understand you got a problem with our cousins, the Peoria. We don't want to get involved. We understand you want to go right to them and kill them off. That's between you and them. We don't want to get involved. Maybe we can talk about this. And so they talked with the enemy. They cut a deal with the enemy. That's why part of this gray area is dark and part is light. Because all of those people over there related to those Miamis more closely, they're no longer after this called Lenawaki. They're not called Illinois people, though they got same language, same culture, because they cut a deal with the enemy. And in come those Seneca and Iroquois, they start killing off those Illinois people. Because the Iroquois got guns, the Lenawakis don't. You know who's going to win. More people died in this war and the ones that followed it than from anything else the Illinois people ran into. Even our diseases and other things. It was war at the hands of other Indians, particularly the Iroquois, later another one. At any rate, that war started around here about 1655. Now, back to the other story. Remember Marquette and Joliet? 1673, almost 20 years later, they decide to come down into the Illinois country, looking for really a water route to the west. They had heard about this great river from all the Algonquins, and it sounds like it's in Illinois country. So they leave up by Michilimackinac, up by St. Ignace Mission. They come on down, they come to the Bay de Puans, the Bay of the Stinkers, the Winnebago. They go to the mission here where Father Aluez is. All these refugee villages down here they come across. At this portage, they meet right over here, some Miami. You remember, who used to be Lenawaki. They get help finding their way over to Mississippi Way. And in June of 1673, Marquette writes down in his journal, "It is with great joy that today we enter the waters of the great river." And that's when written history began in our area. First time anybody wrote it down. They go on down that great river. They're looking all over the place. Marquette's writing, it's a beautiful country. They have many resources. And they're going down, down. Finally, they get down to a place where a tributary comes into there. And on that tributary, they see a path, well-worn. Marquette and Joliet get out of their canoes. They tell their people, stay here. We're going to follow that path. We hope it's an Illinois village and not an enemy village. They go walking off. And they're walking and walking. After a while, in the distance, they see wigwams. One's like this, only with a roof on it. They see smoke rising. They think, oh, we better not look like we're sneaking up on a village. We're going to make them know we're here. So they start yelling, and it doesn't take long. They're noticed. 4 old men are sent out to meet them. The Illinois people knew they were coming. They knew who's coming through their country. The 4 people who come out to meet them, these dignitaries, they come out with nothing on them to show that they're not hiding any weapons and that they are humble in front of the French. Those 4 naked old men lead them back into a village. Probably the first one is Coaracoentanen village. Oh, everybody's very excited to see them. The chief wants to see them. Oh, great words. One of the chiefs gives a speech. Oh, Black Robe, our rivers have never been so smooth as since you have come on them, taking all the rocks out of them. They're laying it on real thick like big politicians. They want the French to live among them, build forts among them. That war with the Iroquois, it's been going on for almost 20 years. These people are dying. The French can give them guns and other things. Well, they get over to the Moingwana village. Same kind of thing. Finally, they're taken to, seems like more important chief, the Peoria village. All these villages are on this river, later named after the Moingwana. You recognize Moingwana? Sure you do. You know, French are like British. Words are too long in Indian languages, so you shorten them. And sometimes you put the word the in front of them. So Moingwana becomes Moines. Des Moines. It's a nickname. The river's named after them too. Well, that's where they were, on that river. They go in, oh, this chief, he lays it on real thick. Oh, you got to stay with us. Oh, we can't, we got a job to do. I got to go save souls, says Marquette. Joliet says, I got to go for the king. And no, they talk to them. They really want them to stay. They finally figure out they're not going to do it. So, some special things happen. He says, before you go, you got any questions about where you're going? Oh, they say, yeah, we got questions. He said, what are we going to find on this great river? Does it go to the west? I say, no, it doesn't go to the west. But if you go down a ways, there's another river comes into it. Big, muddy one. We call it Muddy River. Picatanwe. It comes from the west. Ooh, their ears perk up. They listen real close. Comes from the west. Big river. Ooh, who lives on that river? They asked the Peoria chief. He says, well, there are some people who come with us, and we see them sometimes. I don't know. They speak a different language than us. Now, you remember hearing my words early. They sounded very strange to you. Imagine, if you will, Illinois chief speaking to a Frenchman. This Frenchman, Marquette the Black Robe, he knows a little bit of the Algonquin language, the base language. Like, if you know Italian, you understand some words of French and Spanish, but you don't necessarily understand what's being said real well. And Illinois is like that. It's similar to Algonquin, but it's different. So, they're saying, tell us about these people. They say, well, when these people come to us, they always come in dugout canoes. He never did tell them a name. What Marquette wrote down was the word for dugout canoe. And the way you say that word in Illinois is Missouri. And so those people will forever be known as Missouri. In their own language, they call themselves Neotacha, people of the river's mouth, because they like to put their villages by the river's mouth. He wrote that down. Missouri, on the Muddy River. People are going to be confusing it forever, I think. They said, anybody else live on that big muddy river? He said, yeah, there's some other ones. Oh, these ones, they speak another language too, kind of like those canoe-building people, but A lot of these are very tall. Fierce warriors. They speak another language. Now they got the name they say in their language. So here you got the Peoria Indian trying to remember a name from another language. What do they call themselves? They call themselves Washashe! Washashe! And so Marquette tried to write down something that had never been written down. Washashe. Those of you who speak French, you know how a Frenchman in Marquette today writes down wa? You got two choices. 8, A, because the 8 is a W sound, or O-U-A. He chose O-U-A. So for wa, you got O-U-A. Wa, sha, sha, sha. He's a good Frenchman. He wrote down S-A. G, G. He wrote down G-E. Washaji. Well, that's what he wrote down for these tall people. People looked at that, especially when they didn't hear it said. They said, Washashe, some of them said. Some of them said, Washash. Some of them said, Washage. Some of them said, Woshage. And then some of them said, Osage. Those people will forever be known as Osage. Washashe was just the name of one group of clans, the water people. The whole tribe called themselves Nilkanska, people of the middle waters. These very tall ones humbled themselves before their creator by talking about themselves as being small and little ones. Marquette and Joliet said, okay, if that's all you got to tell us, we got to go now. And they said, well, let me give you something first. Special ceremony. Something to share with you. He pulled out something that looked like this. He put in some tobacco. He lit it. He puffed on it. Smoke went up. He said, I got to do a special ceremony just for you, O Frenchman. And he did a special dance and a special song with his pipe. And then, with Marquette and Joliet standing next to him, he offered the pipe to the 4 sacred directions. He puffed on it again. The smoke went up. He said, we Illinois people promise to forever be friends with the French. And then he passed the pipe to Marquette and Joliet. He hoped they would make a similar promise. They were not stupid. They did. They believed this pipe and its smoke carries your promises to Kashahiwea, the Creator. That's the most sacred promise you can make. You're going to keep it. White feathers mean peace pipe. Means alliance for all time. If it's red feathers, it means we're going to make peace for you and we're going to fight the common enemy. It's a war alliance. Later, Alenawakis at one point went to Osages with a war pipe saying, Iroquois is killing us all. When they get done with us, they're going to kill you. You better fight with us. Then he gave to Marquette and Joliet some gifts. He gave Marquette a pipe and a little slave boy, probably a Pawnee Indian because the Illinois raided them. Marquette wrapped up the pipe, put it in the bottom of the canoe when they got back. Hey, they went on down the river. They saw some of the things that the chief told them about. They saw a big painting on a cliff down just before they got to where that muddy river comes in. They heard what it was called. Piesa. Piesa. And Marquette wrote down a description of this 2-headed mythical beast up on a big cliff. He couldn't believe anybody would put it there. He heard it was meant to chase off the enemy. But you know, that's another word that changed. When I asked them all, what is the name of that thing that when I got there, you could hardly see any of it anymore? They said, Piesa. But that changed to Piasa. I got to tell you what Piasa, it means small little people you can't see who help you against the enemy. They are invisible. Don't tell those people that live around there. They'll be disappointed. Well, they went on down. They saw those muddy waters coming in. They went right on past there. They went on down. They got way down there. Way down there. They paddling along. And all of the people in the area know that these strange men are out there. You don't do something like that in a land like this. The warriors looking on. Young warriors who want to prove themselves. They look out, they say, ooh, strange ones out there in canoes. Ooh, they have many things. That would be good. If we brought those to our people, we would be important. You know, probably the wise ones with snow on the roof, they looked out and said, hey, strange ones, if we make friends with them, they'll trade with us. We'll have things for a long time. But you know, young ones, teenagers, they get it in their mind. You ever try to argue with one of them? Say, that's not the way to do it to a teenager? So they put on the paint. They pick up their weapons. Ha! 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 They go running down toward the river. Marquette and Joliet and the men, they hear them coming. Ha! 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 They see them. I'm sure right away Marquette says, dear God, I'm coming up to heaven today. Open the gates. I'm sorry for it. He's praying right away. I think maybe Joliet is more practical in a different way. He says, men, get your guns. We're going to have to fight. We're probably not going to make it, but we're going to go down fighting. Ha! Ha! Here come the weapons. Here come those warriors. They're looking pretty mean. They're looking like maybe you're going to lose a head or maybe something on top of it. Ha! Ha! And Marquette remembers the thing in the bottom of his canoe. He's kind of nervous, but he unwraps it. Ha! 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 And he holds it up over his head. He remembered the Peoria chief told him, wherever you go, even if you are among enemies, ha! 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 Hold up this pike. It will give you safe passage, even among enemies. Ha! Ha! He holds it up. And probably they don't see it right away. Maybe the old ones do. Ha! 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 And then it stops. Instead of being killed, they are invited into the village. This village is by a big lake. The way you say that in Illinois is Michigamia. Does that word sound more familiar to you now? Great Lake, Michigamia. It'll be shortened to Michigan. Only problem is, nobody knows why, these Michigamias have trouble understanding Algonquin. They've been living down here among the Quapaw, sometime called Arkansas. They are cousins to the Osages. Well, they find a man who does speak these versions of language. And he talks to them, and they go visit the Arkansas people, and finally they're convinced this river keeps going south. You better go back up. And they say, you know, you can save yourself some time when you go back. Don't go up all the way, the great river. As you went up, you know, you get right past the mouth of the muddy river. Look on the right. Look to the east. There's another river comes up, the one of the Elenowakis. It'll save you a lot of time. And that's what they did. They came back up, went past that big muddy river where the canoe people live, went past that Piesa, got on the river of the Illinois people. They met the Peorias again. Maybe they were just on a summer hunt. And then they met the Kaskaskias at a place where a huge rock is right by the river. In French you call it Les Rochers, the rock. And Marquette writes about these people. These people, the Kaskaskia tribe of the Illinois, they too want them to stay. Marquette promises to come back and build a chapel among the Kaskaskia. But they must go now, and they go on up. They get on this lake of the Illinois, and they go back to St. Ignace and Michilimackinac. The next year, 1674, Marquette tries to keep his promise, tries to come back. But it is a bad winter and it started too late. He has to stay at this swampy area at the bottom of that big lake. He winters there. He meets many of the people of the Illinois because in the wintertime they go off on family hunts. He meets some of the Kaskaskia chiefs and others. He stays there, gets to know them, but it's a rough winter. In the spring, he goes on over to Les Rochers, the Kaskaskia village, and he says Mass in front of thousands. And that founds Immaculate Conception Mission in 1675 among the Illinois people at Les Rochers, the rock. But Marquette is sick. And he starts back up. And he goes up that lake of Illinois, where this green dot is. He dies. And he's buried there by the people who are with him. Within 2 years, Natives from the area come by. They dig up his bones. They ceremonially clean them. And in a procession of 30 canoes, they take his bones back to his people at St. Ignace Mission. That's how highly they thought of him. Well, I don't want to tell you all of the history of the Jesuits. I came later. The next person to come down to that mission was Father Aluez. Came down from by the Bay of the Puans, the Bay of the Stinkers. But he could only go back and forth between the two places. Then something happened that changed everything. There was another Frenchman coming in 1675. Perhaps you have heard of him. You know who I'm going to talk about? His name is LaSalle. He would not want you to forget it. LaSalle, too, is a man of vision. He's going to do great things for France and for LaSalle. For the King of France and for LaSalle. For the people of France and for LaSalle. And behind every great man of vision, there's somebody else who's taking care of business. In this case, it was an Italian. His name was Henri Tanti. He had lost one hand in battles over in Europe. It was replaced with a thing of iron. The Indians called him the Iron Hand. They built the first fort in December 1679, January of 1680, at Pimatui, a place where the goose grease is made, sometimes called Fat Lake, traditional place where Peorias stay, widening in the river. On the way to that place, they stopped by that big Kaskaskia village. All of the villagers were gone. It was wintertime. Nobody travels on these lakes and these rivers in the wintertime when it's frozen, unless you are a man of vision. So he had to borrow 74 bushels of corn from their stockpiles. I never heard that he paid them back, but they never argued about it. They built that fort. They said, oh, the French are here with a fort. Maybe now they'll trade us guns. When Father Aluez heard that this man of vision was coming, he went back up to the Bay de Puans. LaSalle could not stand Jesuits. He had studied for 2 years to be a Jesuit. When he left, nobody knows for sure what happened, but he hated us all. So we stayed out of his way. But you know, with men of vision, you don't have to worry. They're not going to be around too long. They're going to go someplace else to make a name for the king, for France, for the people. And eventually he went all the way down to the mouth of the great Mississippi River. And he claimed it all for the King of France. All the waters touched by this river and all that flow into it. And he called it, after King Louis, Louisiana. The man of vision had his prize. So he had to go back right away, get more money, tell the people, now we got to have a colony down there. Because if we don't, the Spanish are going to take it away from us. So who's left taking care of the forts in the Illinois country? Henri Tanti, the Iron Hand. Right after they built that first fort, before LaSalle went all the way down to the mouth of the river, they finished that fort, Fort Creve Coeur, Broken Heart, at the place where the Peorias lived most of the time. Right away, Tanti's left there taking care of the fort all by himself. LaSalle's got to go back up to Montreal, to Quebec. He's got to raise more money. You know, you need things when you have a vision. You need money. Remember that about men of vision. You might know that already. Anyway, he goes back, you know. Here's Tanti with 5 Frenchmen. This war with the Iroquois is still going on, by the way. They still got a bloodlust for the Illinois people. Up on the bluff, there are 500 Seneca one day. And they're all carrying guns. I don't know about you, but if it was me, I'd go up and visit Father Aluez at the Bay of the Stinking Waters. But not Tanti. He was a man of honor. Not like some Frenchmen of vision, you know. He went up on that bluff. He talked to the Seneca. He said, I don't know what you think, but you can't be sure that we don't have maybe 1,000 Frenchmen on there with us. You might want to think carefully about what you're going to do next. While he was talking, the Kaskaskia, the Peoria, all of them, they were going down their river towards the great river, Mississippi. He bought them time. He bluffed 500 Seneca, him and 5 men. He got out of it alive and he went north. They went down the river chasing all those people. When they got down to where their river comes into the great river, All of the Illinois people crossed over to the west side of the Mississippi except one tribe, the Tamaroa people. Tamaroa people, their traditional homeland is in that place between the Mississippi and the river of the Illinois. Somehow they were tricked into thinking they'd be safe staying on the eastern side. Don't let your enemies trick you. The next morning, 1,100 Tamaroa died. Another 1,100 were marched back with the Seneca back to their villages. So you're going from here back up to here. By the way, when the Iroquois go on long-distance war parties, they don't carry food. They can slow them down. We know what happened when they got back to their Seneca village because there was a black robe in there. He couldn't stop them, but he wrote down what happened. They left with 1,100 captives. The good father wrote down, when the Seneca returned with 700 captives, 600 of them were immediately killed, roasted, and eaten. The other 100 became slaves or were adopted into the tribe to take the place of loved ones who had died. When the Iroquois travel long distances in war, they don't carry food. Well, I told you about LaSalle. He went to the bottom of the river. He made a big name for himself. Told the king, we got to get a colony over there. Tonti's left back holding the bag. LaSalle goes down by ship now, with ships and people. But you know, looking at the mouth of that river from the other side, it didn't look the same. He couldn't find it. He couldn't find it. This man of vision was now blind. His men got a little nervous. Some of the colonists and some of the ships, one of the ships went back to France. Well, eventually his men killed him. Nobody yelled, land ho. The Abenakis got used to us being around them. During the 1690s, early 1690s, when I was among them, a big thing happened. I told you Peorias were very, very traditional. They believed in the old ways. There was a young girl. You see, as missionaries, we usually taught the young women. The men, they said, oh, it's fine to have you here, black robe, but don't corrupt our men. They got to be warriors. They got to do things. You know, you're not going to like a black robe telling you got to have only one wife. You got to love your enemies. All these things they didn't like. So they said, go teach our daughters. So we taught their daughters. There was a young girl. Her father's name was Ruensa. He was a shaman, a medicine man. He was also a chief of the Kaskaskia. One of the people who came in with LaSalle and Tonti, his name was Michel Acco. He had a history of getting to know the young Indian women rather well. I did not like the man. He knew it, I knew it. He was a debauchee. He was corrupting them. How can we get these people to learn about God if the Frenchmen are not following God's ways? He decided to settle down, he said. He looked around. He said, ooh, Maria Lorenza, fine woman. I would like her to be my wife. So he goes and talks to the chief. He says, hey, chief, I want to marry your daughter. I'm going to settle down. Chief thinks, good idea. I'd like to have a Frenchman for a son-in-law. Acco thinks, hey, good for me, good for trade business. Hey, we better go tell her. They go to tell Marie. Marie doesn't think the same way. Marie says, I'm saving myself for God. She's a young woman. She's a teenager. But she has taken her lessons to heart. And they have a saying among them, make with tehero. Make with tehero. Take it to your heart. You should follow what's in your heart. We say you should follow what God put in your heart. Not too dissimilar. Well, you know what they thought when she said she's saving herself for God? They said, that black robe put those words in your mouth. She said, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. Oh, they were not happy. The chief said, you're going to marry him. She said, no, I'm not. He kicked her out of the Wikiame. First, he tried to strip off all her clothes to humiliate her, but she got away without them getting all off. She stayed with friends. She continued to come to Mass in the chapel. Finally, Ruensa got the other chiefs worked up. All the chiefs said to all the people, nobody can go to Mass with a black robe. He's a bad influence. Marie and her friends came anyway. They sent a big warrior with a big war club, said, the chiefs have all told you should not go to Mass with the black robe. I chased him out of the chapel. I said, get out of here! Finally, Marie came to me. This went on for a while. Great tension. She said, Great Black Robe, I'm going to marry the Frenchman, but I want you to know why. She said, I'm going to marry Michel Acco because if I do, my father, Chief Ruensa, a shaman, will then listen to you, O Black Robe. This young woman was wise beyond her years. I performed the wedding ceremony. Later on, I baptized their first child. And after the ceremony, Chief Ruensa, in front of all of the villagers, apologized to all the Jesuits through me. I kind of played it up a little bit. I had him where I wanted him, you know. And then he and his wife began instructions to become Christians. And they completed that instruction and became Christians. And then about 3/4 of the Kaskaskia tribe did the same. Now, many people will tell you that we Jesuits, we jiggled numbers to make it look good. Maybe that happened sometime. But I can tell you, it was for real with the Kaskaskia. They became very close with the French. And there's much more history I can tell you, but I fear we will run out of time. I'm sure you have places to go tonight besides listening to me. Well, later on, the Kaskaskias, they moved away from the Peorias because the French finally did build that colony at the mouth of the river. And right away, they started asking allied tribes to come move down there. The Kaskaskia were ready to move. In the meantime, the Seminary of Foreign Missions, another group of seminarians, they were starting up their own mission at a Tamaroa village. I couldn't let that happen. By now, I was in charge of all of the Western Jesuit missions. I talked to my good friend, Ruensa, into moving across from that new mission instead of going all the way to the mouth of the river. There were so many Jesuits in and out of that new place where Immaculate Conception moved that it started to be called River de Pere, River of the Fathers. Eventually, the king had a committee of bishops decide who was right and wrong in this dispute, and we lost. So the Kaskaskias and Immaculate Conception moved down to the mouth of another little river that eventually became known as Kaskaskia. As I said, the Kaskaskia stayed very well with us. There are many more stories, but I think I'm going to have to stop now. Maybe some of you got some questions you want to ask. I would be glad to answer them. No questions? Ooh, I talked too long. Yes, ma'am.
What relation did you have to Fort Deschartres?
Fort to what?
Fort Deschartres?
I know of no Fort Deschartres. I know of no Fort Deschartres.
Was that was much later than you
I'm sure those people down at, I've been down to the mouth of the river where they built that new colony. I think they ought to move where they got it, by that Biloxi village. That's not a good place. That Fort Mississippi they got on that delta, not a good place. I think they should move it, and then eventually I'll bet they build a fort up by there. Is it up by where that other mission is? Up by the Kaskaskias? At the mouth of that river someplace?
Well, what's in Cahokia?
Cahokia, that's the tribe that were next to the Tamaroas, and eventually Ruensa talked the Tamaroas into moving out of that mission area, left the Cahokias, so they're going to call it Cahokia, I'll bet. But if they're going to build a fort someplace, I'll bet it's going to be where that Kaskaskia River comes into Mississippi, someplace like that. And those people at the mouth of the Mississippi, that sounds like something they would do, but not while I was around. Must have been after I left, I guess. Anybody else? I'm sorry, I didn't have a better answer for you. Maybe somebody after me can answer. Anyone else? Well, yes.
Would it be wrong for the great state of Illinois to name their chief Illinois?
What is a state of Illinois? Is that the country? Maybe someone after me.
Would it be wrong for the people who replaced the Illinois to name their mascot?
I don't know. Maybe you ought to ask the Lenawakis. I don't know. Maybe somebody after me will have a better answer. Anyone else? Yes.
I got another.
That's fine.
I grew up I was born in a town, of course this is much later than when you were, but it was named after Joliet. And,
Good man.
yeah, what do you know, isn't there a place down on the Mississippi where Joliet and Marquette stopped and they sort of there's a cross there now. It's near a park.
They stopped many places, but to be able to tell for sure where they stopped, when Marquette was writing down things, we know from my time later on that some of the latitudes he put down were a little bit off. So in his journal he talks about many things, but he doesn't always get as specific as would make it possible to say, this is where they stopped.
That's
Unless
north
they
of the
left.
Pius Bird. Is that right?
I'm sure that they might have stopped there, but he didn't write anything in his journal saying, here's where we stopped. He saw that PA song, but he didn't say, here's where we stopped. You can read his journal, and you have it because you can find it. But not that I have seen to be able to say that. You might want to look in his journal to read what he wrote about that PA song, too. He wrote a fine description of it. Yes?
This journal you're talking about is still in existence, I guess.
Oh, yes, it is in the Jesuit relations. We all had to write reports, and our superiors, they made a big thing about it over in France. They'd get people to support us for it.
Well, where is a copy of that?
Oh, I'm sure you go to a nice library, places of learning, I'm sure you could find it. I'm sure you could. I'm going to stop now. And as I told you before, when somebody is speaking to a formal group, you have to let them know when you're done. Maybe after me, another one will talk. Nimbu, Nandemane. I have finished. If I can hold you for a minute or so, I would like to answer a few of the questions Father Gravier couldn't answer, okay? Number one, I haven't found any direct evidence that they did stop where that cross is, just below Marquette State Park. Number two, I get asked that question all the time. I spent some time living in Champaign-Urbana, and for about 3 years I worked in the Cranbrook Center for Performing Arts, and I understand the tradition very, very well. As an educator, I would hope that somebody would decide to use this conflict to teach people. To teach people about the real history. I know you want to keep alumni happy, especially when you got a long tradition. I know that I don't think all Native American people feel as strongly as some of the people who are loudly doing it, but apparently this is a raw nerve. When you got two sides that are diametrically opposed, it'd be nice if they talk. That doesn't seem to be happening. It seems like we picked our things. I would hope that at the very least people would start teaching. When that tradition started, they didn't understand that the dances they were having Chief Olenowik do weren't from around here. They didn't understand that the way he was dressed was as a Plains Indian. So there were a number of things like that they don't. That's the very least I would hope would happen. The most I hope would happen is that the people who disagree would talk and come up with something that would be a common good for everybody, which means both sides have to give up a little of their pride. They're human beings, and the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get, the harder it is to back out of. So I don't know what's going to happen. But I wish there would be a good educational moment and good feelings out of it. I tend to think that if you respect people and deal with them with respect, in general, you'll get that feeling back. I don't think that's happening with both sides. Were there any other questions anybody want to ask me now that I'm not being Father Gravier?
Didn't you do the program down at the Fort Deschartres?
Yes, at Fort Deschartres. Yes,
That's
at Fort Deschartres, in their big rendezvous for the last 2 years, they refurbished their chapel. It had been done in by the flood of '93, and after they refurbished it, they heard me do a program up at Cahokia in the log church during the 300th anniversary, and they said, "Oh, this is a guy that portrays one of the Jesuits." The only problem is Gravier was dead before that fort was built.
Right, and before the log church too?
Yeah. But he was involved in the conflict with the Seminary of Foreign Missions. And so when I'm down there, I portray Father Le Boulanger, who later added to Gravier's dictionary. But he was there from 1703 to 1740 or 44. So before that particular one is there. Okay. Yeah, I do that. Thank you for remembering. Anything else? I know I am long-winded. And I apologize,
Dan,
but
I just want to say thank you very much. I've been told I'm a pretty good talker sometimes.
Yeah.
I got to admit, I met my man.
You just put on one of these magic hats. It's amazing.
It's amazing what that black. It's amazing what that.
Yeah, you
black
feel
book
like
does
you're preaching to everybody, and you can just go on forever. The only thing you got to watch out for is then you don't pass the hat.
What's amazing is when you're sitting at a table with this guy, he's pretty normal.
My wife doesn't think so.
I want to say I have thoroughly enjoyed. I don't think I've ever had an interpretation or history explained to me quite as well of the Indian tribes throughout the Illinois and Mississippi River Valley. Person that does give a fair amount of talks. I don't know how in the world you keep in mind the vocabulary that you do on these things, and to do it in dialect to boot. I mean, that is, like I say, that of the programs we've done, I've got to say I know a little of history. It obviously isn't my area of expertise, but boy, I'll tell you, I really enjoyed it. I think it was very informative. I hope we are at 9 o'clock. So we're gonna close the meeting here shortly, but I hope you can stay around for a few moments up here in front. I imagine John and Dwayne, Dwayne's our newspaper editor, John, of course, with the radio station. I'm sure they'd probably like to get a couple sound bites from you and so forth for their reports. And you can feel free to answer questions, because I'm sure quite a few people will have them. Now, the father you portray, would you just go on and enlighten us as to what happened with him in the end of his life?
Father Gravier, when Immaculate Conception Mission moved, when the Kaskaskia were moving, in their leaving, they were about to make a big insult to their cousins of Peoria's. He came in from what's now the place of the smelly garlic, where the new Guardian Angel Mission was. Place of the smelly garlic is Chicago. That's what Chicago means. And he came down to Peoria, where the Immaculate Conception Mission was by that time, and it started out at what's now Starved Rock State Park. And the Kaskaskia were going to move. He did talk them into moving across from what's now Holy Family Mission. And then he said, stay here, I'll go down to the mouth of the river to find out if what they promised you was true. He went down, he really played up the Jesuit position, and in his journal all the way down he says, this is where Marquette, he was here, he stopped at this tribe, and he reminds everybody in his writing. He went down, he brought back up the word with one of the seminary foreign missions that the Jesuits lost, and he went back up to work with the Peorias. He had promised them a Jesuit would be back if they just keep the faith, which they didn't really have anyway. They didn't really care. But he said, I'll be back. And he really loved these Indians. It sure sounds that way. He talks about them as my Illinois. And he went back up to the Peoria, and a chief, Mantuchesna, got some of his warriors very, very worked up when they came back from the north one day, and they took it out on Gravier. He got shot 5 times with arrows, with stone tips. One of them stayed in his arm. They had to sneak him out of the village late at night, some of the people who were with him. They took him down to what's now Cahokia, where that log church now sits. They tried to doctor him. They said, you got to go down to the mouth of the river. They got better care. They took him all the way down. They got him down there. They said, you got to go back to France. We can't do anything for him. He went back to France. While he's over there, he's trying to raise money for his missions. And he says, well, I'm ready to go back. This arm's still bothering me. That one tip is still in there. And he comes back, and he's talking with all the bigwigs. New Orleans isn't there yet. First they were at Biloxi, then they were at Mobile. Eventually in 1718, they moved over to what's now New Orleans. Gravier died down there. He died down there, and I would love to go down and find out if there's a place noted for him someplace. He never got to come back up, and the last major part of his journal talks about, he's answering barbs that the Seminary Foreign Mission and other people have thrown against the Jesuits. He's still fighting the Jesuit cause. He's a good Jesuit soldier in that sense. But I think he really, really did care about these people. And the Kaskaskia really did get with the French. And in 1763, for those of you that aren't aware, the Jesuits got kicked out. They got kicked out all over the world because the Enlightenment was coming on, and nobles over in Europe thought these people were getting too powerful. And they talked the kings into going to the Pope, and the Pope said, come on back home. One Jesuit in the Illinois country was old, and he said, he got all the way down to New Orleans in 1763, and he said, let me go back. I don't even know anybody in France. These people aren't going to have a missionary. And they let him come back. And he stayed there with them, and a whole bunch of things happened after that. And eventually, by 1818, we know they were back because that's when St. Louis University was founded. St. Louis wasn't founded until 1764. So River de Pere Village, with Father Maris, Father Gravier, and the other ones going in and out, That was there from 1700 to 1703. So it predates St. Louis. And it was the Kaskaskia tribe, and some of the Tamaroa came with them, and some other things went on. So if you want to know any more, I will stay around. If you want to know anything about my nonprofit, Napundakan, I founded it 4 years ago after working at the Arch for 4 years. And that's what I do. I go around. So I'm a nonprofit, and I have to do fundraisers and all that kind of stuff too. But I do it so I can bring this kind of history of the tribes of the Midwest to life. When I worked at the Arch doing programs on all kinds of Native Americans that were affected by the westward expansion, a lot of people came up to me and said, "Who lived around here? Who lived around here?" And I thought it was amazing that people in Illinois didn't really understand that Illinois is named after a group of tribes and who they were and what their life was like. So I started with them. I went into the Osage, the Missouri, the Oto, the Iowa. I'm doing a big circle, and I continue to research, and then I do newsletters on them, and I create programs, and I go around doing this kind of thing. It's kind of a passion, and that's what I do. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Thank you all for coming and being with us this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the program as much as I have, and Dan's presentation, as I said, was just wonderful this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting for this evening, and thank you all for coming. And like I say, feel free to stay around and browse a bit. The old letters on display over here, and Dan, of course, will be here answering questions. Thank you again for coming. We look forward for another very good year. Thank you.